Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Boyd. Um, this is our first of the WETL webinars that we're going to do. It's a series we'll be looking at doing for the rest of the school year, one per month. There will be more information on the WETL site as far as schedule as we get farther along the line. We're trying to match up with the topics that COSN is covering in their seminars this school year. We have Annette Smith and Jen Lotz. I never say your last name right, Jen Lotzi. Not if I'm right. Who are going to be going over some information with you today. This is an intro to student data privacy. The topic is way too complicated to cover in a half hour, but this is a way to get your feet wet and get moving in the right direction so that you can keep your students' data secure. Jen and I will go over a couple of recent issues that have occurred with student data, and then Annette's going to talk about a tool that DPI has purchased for districts that will help with the ability to analyze contracts and ensure that vendors are doing their due diligence with maintaining student data privacy. So WETL is the Wisconsin chapter of COSN. So we're an organization for ed tech leaders to help people understand how to plan and use information technology in schools. We have not had a lot of advocacy efforts directly with members that we're trying to get better at and provide additional value for our Wisconsin members, and this is the first opportunity for us to do that. Next, there you go, Jen. So these are examples of different incidents that have happened. Hi, Tim. With student data privacy leaks and breaches over the past few years.
Yeah, these stories are all different incidents across the country that really impact not only our students, but our staff, family members. Many of you have probably been impacted by one or several of these that have been brought to light. So if you're on the slides, you can click on any one of these headlines and it'll take you to the story behind that. The most recent one that we just added was the Pearson data breach from this fall. If you're a technology leader in Wisconsin, you've probably been a part of some communication regarding that. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Annette Smith with DPI.
Thank you, Jen. So one value add that some WETL members have already brought to the state is the Student Data Privacy Consortium, because one of the things that Jen and others said very clearly to me when I first started this job at DPI is that they wanted to be a part of this consortium and they wanted the whole state to participate. So here at the Department of Public Instruction, we purchased a statewide license to this consortium and pulled together a group of technology leaders from around the state to advise us not only on how to implement this consortium throughout the state, but other cybersecurity and data security issues that they see and how the DPI can help. So the Student Data Privacy Consortium is a national organization of mostly states that have joined and put this out to their districts, and it allows the districts to start to use a common set of tools and vocabulary when working with vendors. So specific language around student data privacy that can be embedded into contracts that is not exactly the same, but so similar that vendors start to be consistent in how they represent and build their software to deal with student data privacy. So whether you live in California or Texas or Virginia or any of the other, California, which has the strongest student data privacy law, you will have this language, and when you talk to a vendor, whether it's ClassLink or EduSurge or I saw one on their Snowflake, and I'm not even sure what Snowflake does, but you're using that language. And so, Jen, would you mind passing control to me so I can just share a few things on the site? Thank you. I'm going to go to the student data. So can you see my screen? Nope, I didn't share. Hold on, let me share my screen. So this is what the Student Data Privacy Consortium page looks like. And I'm already logged in. And if you are not a member, again, we pay the license fee here at DPI. You simply need to join. And there's directions in the slides for how to join. When you select your school district, I get an email, DPI make sure that you really work for that district, and then we give you access to the site. And I get an email, then you'll get an email giving you directions on how then to get into the site. And when you go to our Wisconsin page, you'll see some information about the alliance. You can look at other state alliances if you want to. What I really want to highlight today is that data privacy agreement. So right here in the middle of the page, you can see here is a template contract that you can use as is. So if you just want to use the contract as it stands, here it is, without any exhibits. The language in this contract has been vetted by Wisconsin lawyers, so we know that it meets the Wisconsin laws and expectations. And if you want to, there's also a editable document here, because some districts want to make sure that their district name is in there, that they might change it just a little bit to meet their district's additional expectations. And that's fine. You don't even have to use this, but we're putting it out there as an option because it really will start to force those vendors, like I said, to be consistent across the country. So we're not each having to redo these data agreements every time we talk to a vendor. And not all districts have lawyers who can spend days looking and going back and forth with these company lawyers to make this language work. So this is there, it's vetted, it is ready for you to use. The second piece about these agreements is the ones with the exhibit. So there is what is called an Exhibit E, and Exhibit E is basically an appendix that if the vendor signs, so if Hudson, for example, creates this contract with a company and then they sign Exhibit E, then Stevens Point can pull out Exhibit E for that company and say, hey, you already agreed to this with Hudson. We don't need to negotiate with you. We want the same contract. We want the same agreement. You've already signed Exhibit E. Please sign it for us, and you are done. Because they have to honor that for all districts, all schools in Wisconsin. So let me just show you some of the agreements that are out there. So I'm going to go to these other district agreements. And we are going to view the ones that we already have in our state. So if you look here, you can see Hudson has Class Creator. They have an agreement. They do not have an Exhibit E. So with Class Creator, you would need to go through the whole contract process with them, but you could use the template that we have. Where on the other hand, if you look at Pebble Go, they've signed the agreement and Exhibit E. So if you want to have an agreement with Pebble Go, you simply need to pull up Menominee's Exhibit E, say you've already signed this, and you're done. So you can see all of the different ones that exist within our state. You can also search the database. So if you have a specific piece of software that you want to look for, you can look by district, agreement type, resource. You can see all the different resources here, search, and it will show you who in our state has already signed an agreement. You can see the vendor's contact information. You can see the district contact information. So that gives you also the opportunity to reach out to that district and talk to them and say, how did this go for you? How did that go for you? And really help you with that negotiation and to make it go smoother. And the goal here is for Student Data Privacy Consortium to get our vendors across the nation to honor student data privacy laws. So the more of us that participate, that sign these agreements, that get them up onto the site, the more likely we are to really be able to pressure them into honoring these agreements. So if you do get one, if you do work with a vendor and get them to sign an agreement, please be sure to go to your page into the student data privacy and upload that agreement. And so there's an add agreement page right here. You can add your agreement, and that will just continue to build this warehouse of contracts, of exhibitees, as well as information about the different apps that are out there and how they are meeting these student data privacy requirements. And so, Jen, with that, let me pass it back to you to talk a little bit about how you can use this site not just to get a contract with a vendor, but to vet apps that you're thinking of bringing into your district. I'm going to stop share and pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to pull up my screen. All right, can you see my screen now? Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so what I do, totally in line with a lot of what Annette said, but one thing that I'll definitely do is I'm getting started with a vendor, or I'm looking to get an agreement signed, is I'll go into the SDPC website and I'll just go into that national database just to learn more about that vendor, because that's going to show me any district that is in the SDPC that has put an agreement or any communication with a vendor into the database. So I'm just going to search for ABC, yeah, because that's one that has come up quite a bit. And so what I can see here that's really helpful for me is I can see examples of other states, other districts. I can see here that it was declined. The vendor might have refused to sign. Oh, but this district had success and has a California agreement signed. That tells me a lot about, you know, working with that vendor, perhaps a contact information. I can look at some of the data that that vendor collects. One of the key pieces within that data sharing agreement is towards the back, where it has the vendor identify all of the key pieces of data that they collect. And so I'll take a look at that and see, you know, many times we will set up a connection with that vendor and we might give them too much information or not enough information. It helps me to identify what that transfer looks like. So that's really how I start on that, on the SDPC website. And then I'll definitely go into that national database, and then I can also search by state, which is where I can then say, okay, I want to see anything that has happened in Wisconsin, and then I can take a look and say, okay, Text Help has reached out to, or sorry, Fort Atkinson has reached out to Text Help. I'm going to wait until they get their agreement to get my agreement going. That's the benefit of this, is really the power is where Annette was talking about that Exhibit E. That's really what makes this process so meaningful for us as school districts. And so it's really great. The nice thing also when you're signed in is that you'll be able to see even new requests. So I can see that Sarah Radcliffe and Chippewa has put in a new request with learning.com. I can see all that data, whereas if you're not signed into your unique account, you don't see everything, but you definitely get a good start. So that's been really exciting for me. One other piece that's really nice within here is that I can also create a customized resource listing for the Hudson School District. And this is one of the things that we'll be trying to set up next for all of our agreements. So then we can just embed this right on our website and families can take a look at this. It's responsive. It has all those agreements and the data that's collected. So as far as the SDPC goes, that's been really exciting and really powerful for us as districts, and we are incredibly thankful to DPI for purchasing that on our behalf.
So I'll step in real quick. If you could go back to that, Jen, for a second, that one right there. There's one other set of tools on here that SDPC is working with, and that's, I believe it's under account management. It's the workflow pieces. You can create a customized workflow that you can have your staff use to submit a request to use a tool, and have the system track from teacher request to curriculum review to technology review to budget review, and track the steps involved with getting a new resource approved. That's where we've been spending more of our time in Kettle Moraine, is working on getting this piece working. We have a multi-stage process for reviewing any online resource. I hate to admit that we haven't done a good job of uploading the agreements as we get things signed. I wrote a note already to go back and get some of those things put in. We have 25 or 30 different online tools that we use that I probably should have made sure our contracts were in there. But so that's another piece that is, it's of value. It's still being built. So it's not bulletproof yet, but it's doing quite well.
Thanks, Bob. So questions that Annette mentioned, that there's a team of different technology leaders that is working with DPI on where should I start with data privacy? How do I dig in? What are some things that I should start engaging in dialogue around in my district? So based on those other experts that we have the great privilege of working with, some things that have come forth in our discussion, just talking about the SDPC website and the national directory, providing training for your staff. Many people don't realize that DPI has created a training that's specific to data sharing and data privacy and data access. So you can deploy that to your staff anytime you like. It's available on the DPI website, and it's a really great training that you don't have to create yourself. One thing that we're really encouraging technology leaders to do is engage in dialogue with not just your IT team. And talk to your teaching and learning department, talk to your CFO, your superintendent, assistant superintendent. This isn't just a technology related issue. This is a teaching and learning issue and a data issue and a security issue. So really start engaging with your higher level leaders in that discussion, but also communicate with your staff as well. You know, engaging that communication in both directions so then everyone is on the same page and it's really transparent. Because the next step where you're talking about reviewing applications that Bob was referencing, and we've done some in Hudson, it's really important to be really transparent with that process so people know why you're reviewing something, why does this matter, why is this important, and ultimately comes down to protecting our students and protecting our student data. So we want to do that. We want to hold that very firm in our district. So engaging in that dialogue with your teachers, your staff, other administrators is really important. And then in addition to that, communicating with your families so they understand the importance of this, that data sharing matters in every element of life. And then lastly, engage in that dialogue with your vendors. We are in a time where we have a lot of options with vendors. You know, even in the area of data warehouse, we have multiple different options. In student information systems, we have options. So having that discussion with your vendors and, you know, engaging in that conversation before you sign a contract, before you send a purchase order around how they secure data, what if a breach happens, and all of that is identified in that data sharing agreement to just start that conversation. And then when you do have that contract, make sure that that data sharing agreement is included in it and make sure that that language is tied together in the contract. So if something does happen, you can hold them accountable ultimately for that breach or that incident.
So just, Jen, I'm going to piggyback on one thing, and I hear this all being said everywhere now, and I think it applies. This is everyone's lift. It's everyone's responsibility. So we all have to be participating together around these agreements and this making our information and our students' information private.
Thank you so much.
So as long as we're going there, one real quick thing to bring up is it's a problem that we had, and we've done a pretty good job of addressing it in Kelly-Moraine, is the sharing of student data using online cloud resources. So the team teaching, where there's a spreadsheet of student information shared through Google Drive. Training your staff to make sure that they know that sharing for anything that is beyond directory data, sharing needs to be done with the individual people, not with the dreaded anyone who has the link or domain wide. Those are the two things that we've spent a couple of years in. We've been using Google Drive and Google Tools for a long time. The last 2 years, we've spent a considerable amount of time in engaging our teaching staff in the need to not share data through those cloud tools.
Awesome. Thank you. Great point. that it's, definitely more than just our applications, just our resources that we purchase. It's everything. In Hudson, when we had asked teachers to give us the applications that they were using with students that collected PII, email addresses, names, birthdays, whatever, we had quite the list that came in of things that teachers are using, and most of them are great and safe, but going through that review process and engaging in that dialogue around, does this align with our instructional priorities, in addition to, does this keep our students' data safe and keep our students safe? It's been really an interesting process here, that if anyone has any questions about any one of us, would be happy to talk your ear off about what we learned, so you don't maybe have to go through all of the pain points that we all did. We're thankful that others have also gone before us. So with that, we are coming close to the end of our first webinar ever. Sad to see it end, but excited that this is happening. So where can you learn more? We will be hosting a Twitter chat that will follow up with data privacy on December 3rd at 5 p.m. using hashtag WETL chat. So please, we'll have some questions there for you. Please definitely join us. We will get more information out on that soon. It's hard to believe that December is almost here already. Secondly, our CTO clinic is coming up again this year at Brainstorm. Registration is officially open. You all are the first to see this registration link. This event is going to be a little bit different than what we have done in years past. Again, it's free, so whether you are a WETL or COSN member or not, all are welcome. But we are encouraging technology leaders to bring their teams, your communication director or your chief financial officer or your superintendent or teaching and learning director, whoever you have in your district that we want to break down those silos and engage in this conversation, bring those people to this event. Lunch is provided, so that's really exciting. It's always delicious. But this event is unique in that the morning we'll have a speaker come in and speak about data privacy, cybersecurity, securing your network, securing your data. But the afternoon, we're going to have two tabletop exercises that are hosted by industry experts within the field of cybersecurity that are going to come and run your teams and other people within the room through these tabletop exercises to really talk about if you have a cyber incident or you potentially think you might have a breach or something scary happens that we don't want to handle, but just walking through that, it'll be really powerful and free for all of you. Annette, I'll let you talk a little bit about the DPI webinar and then the rest of the items on the list.
So on November 20th, we will have a webinar with a focus on cybersecurity. I would expect the links to go out on social media before the end of this week. And some of the people who are going to be participating in the tabletop exercise and who are helping to organize it are going to take part in this event. And it's really kind of a beginner's guide to what you should be doing, how you can be doing it, and more importantly, who are the people in Wisconsin that you can reach out to who will help you and who will help you get started without an outlay of money. So they'll get you going in the right direction. They're not going to fix your issues, but they'll get you, the boat going in the right direction and guide you so that you're spending your money wisely to fix the issue, not just to identify the issue. So they're going to just do a little teaser, get people started down the path, and then we're going to follow that up with a 2-day virtual event, February 4th and 5th. We're partnering with the CISAs to put together cybersecurity, data privacy, 1-day trainings. The first day on the 4th will be for districts that have a 1-person or less IT shop. And then day 2 will be for people who have a 1-person or more IT shops. You can self-identify. They'll be the same topics, but from a little different bent, depending on, if you don't have 20 people in your IT shop, you have to approach these problems a little differently. And registration for those, if you attend it virtually, will be free. If you attend it in one of the CISA offices, they will have a fee associated with that. But that registration should also be coming out soon. And again, both of these events are really meant to guide people to be prepared to participate in those tabletop exercises. So all of these events that we're now trying to pull together with WETL and other organizations will help us and help our state to start to be better prepared to participate in these kinds of events.
Thank
Jen,
you.
can you step back to the last slide real quick? The bottom one on there is a Future of Privacy Forum. One of the organizations that Kettle Moraine is involved with is the Digital Promise League of Innovative Schools. And in my visits across the country with that organization, the Future of Privacy Forum has come up repeatedly. They have a lot of good information about not necessarily what's happening now, but what they see coming next, and the things that, as you move farther down the line with the processes we've been talking about today, the things that you need to be aware of.
Yep. And if you don't follow them on Twitter, definitely do. Amelia Vance is very smart. She's the director of the Future Privacy Forum, and she posts multiple times a day. I have alerts turned on because she's posting a ton about facial recognition and surveillance and those kinds of things that, you know, we're just talking about data privacy now, but those are all implications that we need to start thinking about as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
The AI and Alexa type of things are frightening.
That's another day.
Another day.
So, and then just to wrap up our webinar for today, I will post the link to these slides in our webinar chat, but also we'll make them available to you after this webinar. And these are all just different resources that we all have found very beneficial through our learning process. I just think that these are the people that have gone through the legal language and have gone through supporting other districts with when something occurs, that they're sharing all this information. It's really, really helpful. If you haven't requested that account for the Student Data Privacy Consortium, please do. And that is really fast to get you your access. So yeah, and with that, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Annette and Bob, for joining us in leading our first webinar. Next month, our focus will be on cybersecurity. So we look forward to chatting more with you then. And please don't be a stranger and reach out to our WETL organization if there's anything that you need. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.